It is race week, and you know what this is. This is the Mixer. I'm your boy Jay from Wolfpack Performance Talk Podcast. We're about to get into a mixer. So on a mixer, if you haven't been here before, for previous mixers, what I do, I talk about various topics that have led up to the race weekend. Now, do not forget to join us later on today for the kickback quality. That's where we have a live qualifying watch along, talk about things in there, talk about the teams, look at the times, all types of good stuff, have polls and votes. And then Sunday, we will have the post-show finale lap where we go over the highlights, debate, talk, and possibly pop a bottle. Now, this is not the bottle that the members voted on. Listen, members, when I put those polls out for you to vote, now I picked this bottle because I'm hoping that this Patronus Blue will give us a little bit of fair shake. All right. And, hopefully if it happens, Patronus Blue, kind of, the Mercedes colors, along with, I'm even trying to write with this pen. But anyway, you got to vote on those bottles when I put it up to try to get a good, fair amount of majority, okay? That way I can get the bottle in. Now, the Lamborghini bottle is on its way here, but it will not be here by tomorrow, by today, for the actual kickback quality, not finale lap. So it won't be here even for the finale lap because I was hoping it would get here today before qualifying so we could look at the bottle, go over the bottle, and then pop it hopefully on Sunday. But you know how it works. If we don't pop it on Sunday, it's hell. So this bottle is the reserve bottle. But when the Lamborghini bottle comes in, it will automatically take its place, and we'll put this one off to the side if we ever have another situation where we don't get that bottle in. If you're wondering how to join the channel, go to the main page on the channel, click join, become a member, like a little perks with that. Plus, you will see certain live chats only members will have access to. But listen, without further ado, let's get into whatever else is going into this weekend because we got a shit ton of upgrades this weekend going into Silverstone. And with one team predominantly having most upgrades, unless there's another team that ends up having more, Williams has done quite a bit to their car, including the vacation of said design. All right, I'm going to go into another video on that and we'll talk about it. But let's get into our first topic, which is the salary cap. All right. Now, recently there was some talk on the salary cap. Max Verstappen made a very critical, good point that I personally agree with because I am all about athletes getting their money, especially getting as much money as they can before they leave a sport. Being an athlete in this sport is not a lifetime venture, okay? You're not going to be in there a lifetime. There's a certain time span. Now, give it, Alonso's had the longest career, although he hasn't accomplished more than other drivers in his career. He's had the longest career, okay? And you would hope that he would have made as much money as he could have with the fact that he's put his life in danger in this sport. Now, yeah, he chooses to do that. Lewis chooses to do that. Max chooses to do that. But this is what they're good at. This is what they love. This is their job. And I am one person definitely that might share perspectives with other people, including Max and other drivers, that they should get as much money as they can in that bag, especially if they're going to bring wins to the team. Okay, now, I do agree with the cap on the teams. I agree with that to kind of equalize things out a little bit, to try to make teams be a little bit more challenging on resources and things and developments that they can get in the cars and be competitive and hopefully take the field. But as far as capping what a person can earn due to their ability to bring wins or benefits to that team, I am not in favor of that. So that right there tells you what I feel about the salary cap as far as drivers is concerned. Lando, of course, said that Max would be a little bit more knowledgeable to speak on it. And I think what Lando was saying is, I'm not even at the amount of money or salary in which that would even, there's no ceiling. I'm not even close to the ceiling yet. Like, my head is not close to this cap ceiling. Whereas drivers like Lewis Hamilton and Max are. I mean, they're well above $30+ million. Okay. So they're there in an atmosphere where they can think about that, where that might affect them. Whereas Lando and Yuki, not so much, right? They're still trying to get to that atmosphere. They're trying to see what that air is like. Now let's get into these updates because we got a lot of updates to go over. And most of them belong to one team, but we do have a few updates to go over. Now, I'm not going to go over every update with the teams. Now, I got some indications in here to give you a generalized idea where these updates may be so you can see the idea of what's going on. And we're going to go ahead and roll right into that. Get off of this. Max is out of there. All right, so starting with Mercedes. Front suspension. You can see that first arrow going up to the left towards the front of the car. They added a volume bulge basically to help to improve the airflow underneath the floor. Then they have the side pod inlet, repositioned vanes on the side chassis ahead of the side pod. And I didn't highlight those, but you can see those right up under the mirror. And the vane that's leading right into the side pod, I think you see it just above toward the back of that tire. The next thing we have is the floor body increased floor edge wing slots. And you got a little flick there that's flicking up to if you compare it to an older floor. Then you also have the rear wing is reprofiled wing tips. Now these wing tips, let me go into these wing tips. Right here, you can see are more squared out, okay? So they squared out their wing tips. Then you have the realignment bib of the wing AOA, and then a small chamber change for the forward floor fence, okay? So that is what we have for Mercedes, all right? And there's the picture right there. You'll see some of those winglets, those to direct that airflow right there. You'll see that right up under that mirror. And then we're going to get into Red Bull. Red Bull's update was a bit drastic in comparison to other updates because they have completely modified and changed the airflow on their cake going into their Coke. And you can see that they're along with their louvers, okay? So front corner calipers were done to try to increase and avoid heat spottings on that. Now, I don't have a photo of that, but I mean, I have a photo of that. I think I placed it already on the YouTube channel. The cake engine cover, as we already saw, you see the pink arrows pointing to that. Then the floor edge geometry revision is also done to the Red Bull. And they also made some small geometry changes to the floor fence, okay? So right there, you can tell the louvers have changed. If you compare that with a blue arrow to another picture, you'll see that change there. Then we get into Ferrari. Okay, now Ferrari was running some flow viz earlier today. Ferrari was running some flow viz on their rear wing area to try to see how that flow was going. Some of it looked good. Some of it was splotchy. So you can see where they may have some kind of flow. I don't want to say issues or problem, but where they may want to enhance or better that flow, okay? But this was one of the main things that definitely people were looking into was their mirrors. So you have that like claw, those little vanes, the little winglets on the bottom there to direct that airflow. Now the green arrow is pointing to an update actually that happened in Azerbaijan, and that is the support interior support of that mirror. Now before it kind of came off toward the middle in front of the side pod area, now it is directly kind of up on the upper part of that nose. Now we're going to go into another team that definitely did have some flair as far as upgrades were concerned, and that is going to be Alpine. So Alpine right there has some modifications to their floor, as you can see in these areas, all right, to try to get this airflow. Everybody is trying to, majority of the field is definitely trying to utilize and repurpose this air and try to get it back in there so they can do as much as they can, whether it be cooling or ridding themselves or porpoising or trying to get more downforce on the car. Whatever the case may be, a lot of changes are happening to floors, okay? So another thing is right here, this is a big thing with Alpine, the side pod, and they're not the only team with something drastic to happen with their side pod. Now you'll see right here, Alpine kind of has almost adopted a little bit of Ferrari's design. Now, if you look at Ferrari's side pod design, you know one thing that we noticed about them is that deep gouge curvature that kind of went on the side pod and directed that airflow in. And Alpine has now introduced that into their side pod design. Now, me personally, I think that Alpine's side pod design might be a bit thinner, but it could be the overall design along with that carbon in there, making it seem that way. Now, I won't know until I get another picture directly above, which I'm going to search for directly above of both design specs and kind of compare them and line them up. And if I do, I will post that on the YouTube community channel. So yeah, that is what Alpine did right there. They also did, you know, the floor geometry. So they went over that. And now we're going to go ahead. I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible because like I said, we do have quite a few upgrades and quite a few other topics to go into. All right, the next team up is Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo. So side pod inlet, the vanes on the top of the side pod near the cockpit. All right, and then you will also have, now remember, all these pictures will not dictate or indicate the changes, just some of them. And then you had the floor fence, subtle changes to the shape of the floor fence. This was done to focus airflow management. Then you had the floor edge, small changes to the geometry of the floor edge. Again, flow management. Then you had the beam wing was also done. Tips of the beam wing efficient to improve local airflow. So like I said, a lot of these teams are trying to manipulate and get as much as they can out of flow in this car. Then you had the rear corner, the vanes on the rear duct, brace dick ducts. So you had that going on around the wheel to generate local load. All right, another thing that was done was there was a port open into the nose to bring in more cooling for the drivers. That was something else that was also done on the Alfa Romeo, as well as their end plate did have a little bit of modification on. I think it was very small, very subtle, nothing to really write home about. The next team up is Haas. Haas did not have like a tremendous, and actually let's go back to Alfa Romeo, because Alfa Romeo did have some other things. So they did have also the wing mirror housing, floor elements, the coke profile, and they actually had the cooling duct fans, okay? And I think I might have had that somewhere in here, just kind of indicating the cooling duct fan situation they might have had, just to kind of give you an idea, like they're trying to generate cooling in there to get those cooling elements to cool down a little bit more. Overheating issues, especially we've been having some failures with Ferrari power units, so I think they're trying to get a handle on that as well. Haas, not so much. Front end wing plate. The second iteration has the form of a simple curve. You can kind of see that right there. Again, directing airflow is key. Next, we're going to go to the RB18 clone, all right? So they had side pod inlet, the vanes on the top of the side pod near the cockpit, different geometry. Again, airflow, okay? Downstream airflow. Floor fence. Also, we'll go into this picture. I'll let you all look at that while I'm reading through some of these upgrades. Subtle changes to the shape of the floor fence, focusing on floor management. Floor edge, small changes to the geometry of the floor edge. Again, flow management is the key here. Like I said, a lot of teams focusing on flow management. The beam wing, as we were looking back at this other picture, tips of the beam wing, efficient improves local airflow once again. And then they had the rear corner. In this photograph right here, you can see the vanes of the rear brake duct. Okay, so right there again, trying to get that airflow in, more than likely keeping the brakes cooler so they don't overheat. We don't want to see a fire there, and we've seen plenty of those already with AlphaTauri. They have definitely not disappointed us there. All right, so next team up is McLaren. Trimmed the rear wing flaps, and also they did some rear duct work to try to direct airflow again. So that was McLaren. Not extremely too much. Now, there was something pretty cool that was happening with McLaren, and specifically Lando. They had a very nice in-cockpit pedal shot. So as Lando was driving around the track, we could literally see what he was doing, the changes from him braking and acceleration as he was going in and out of corners and hitting straights. And that was a pretty cool view to just kind of bring more in connection, like what's going on as they're going around the track, to give you a better idea of what they're having to do, how these drivers are having to function, how they're actually making it happen. It was a cool view. If you have the Formula One app or Sky Sports, whatever you may have, where you can go back and watch the practice sessions, go back and check that out. That was really cool. I like that onboard view. All right, so the next thing we have coming up right now is AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri had the rear brake duct area. They had some vanes in there. All right, that I thought I can kind of see. And another thing they had was the floor man. I thought the floor might have had some type of floor management updates. Not sure. But they definitely put some rear camber in that wing. They scooped that down. So that pretty much, and I thought for a moment maybe they had done some airflow things down here on their floor, but not sure. I didn't really get that information on AlphaTauri, so this is just something I'm speculating too. All right, the next team up, Williams, and Williams is the big dog of the day. Williams not only had the most updates up until now, they ran the most flow viz that I've seen since testing. I mean, the whole side pod on one part of the car, on one side of the car, was completely covered in pink flow viz. Now, another thing that is very interesting is this. Albon's car is the only car that had either all these updates or surely a bulk of these updates. Crash Latifi did not get any of these, okay? So these cars completely are different cars on the track as they're going to go into this race weekend. It is reported that Latifi might not see any of these updates for another few weeks, okay? I want to say maybe France. We'll see, but I think that there are a couple of reasons for that. One, why, if you are going to introduce this amount of updates, this is money. And Latifi's already ate up a good portion of money with wrecking up shit. So another thing is you don't want to put these updates on a car that could possibly be wrecked. And they're possibly not looking at Latifi returning. I don't think so. I think they're looking, you got this Piastri deal still in the air. I think Latifi is gone next season. So I think they're kind of like, what for? And another thing is credit to Albon is really good at giving feedback to teams on how to improve the cars. He's done that with Red Bull on his way out with helping Sergio. He's done that coming in the AlphaTauri when he was there helping Yuki. So he's done these things already. And I think it's pretty cool that he is that type of person. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a real cool feature about Albon. And I think that's something that has saved his career and kept him in Formula One, having that attribute, okay? So let's get back into AlphaTauri. Or get back into Williams. My apologies. Get back into Williams. Williams floor edge. We're going to start with the front wing, as they had FWF and mounting adjusting details. Nothing really major there. Then they did the front corner, forward deflector geometry, subtle flow regimen downstream. Again, on the first one, again, directing flow. Side pod inlet and mirror geometry to suit. Okay, so right there again, effective balance of cooling flow. Then they had the floor fence area done, modified the curvature distribution of the forward floor fence, and that would generate additional local load. Then they had the floor body, okay, modified expansion profile of the main floor body, improved flow conditioning for the rear of the floor, and then the halo. Now, I believe I have this shot. Right there is the front floor area, which we're not getting into that right now. I think there's the shot right there, the halo. So introduce additional winglet geometries on the side of the halo cladding, and you'll see that right there. Then we get into the floor edge. So I think we can go back and right in here, the floor edge, repositioning the existing floor slot and the floor edge winglets, improving airflow once again. Then the diffuser, which I'm going to save this for another video, what I'm going to talk about there. We'll get into it. But main expansion, outboard wall surface, and then the cake. And now remember, all these photos are not showing all the upgrades, and I'm talking about just some of them and pointing to general areas. So then the cooling louvers, I want to say maybe, yeah, we got a shot of that. Positioning slot higher up of the engine cover surface. As you can see, maximize the benefits of local load plus improving airflow for cooling. Rear suspension, the rear suspension cladding surface generate more local load. The rear corner scoop winglet and lower deflector geometries, rear corner to provide local load and operating ranges. And also, I don't want to sound like an asshole when I say this, because I also don't want to sound like a team should always be trying to be the best that they can be. Now, during practice, I can say that Albon had some moments where, even with the car being very new to him and the team, them trying to understand it as much as possible, I was hoping like Silverstone wasn't about to turn into Imola Part 2 and it was going to get rained out. Like having a bunch of updates across the grid and then having rain is like having blue balls, okay? You're all piped up for something to happen and it ain't going to happen. So I'm very glad that it cleared up enough for them to get out there and make some runs. I'm hoping that tomorrow they can probably make some more adjustments and get that thing dialed in. I'm going to be looking to see the gap between Latifi and Albon during this race. And not only that, I'm going to be looking to see where Albon places himself within the qualifying process. Does he meet the drop-off zone for Q1 and Q2, making it to Q3? And even after the fact of that, I'm looking to see where, in comparison, he is on race day. I'm not saying that Albon's going to make podium, but if Albon makes the top, let's say he breaks top 6, let's say he breaks top 8, that might be a critical improvement up on this car, even though they still have to get a handle on it. And let's say Latifi's still stuck down there at 19 or 20. Now, if Albon is still down there with Latifi, this team should spend a bunch of money in updates that really didn't do shit. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going to say about that. So that's how I feel. I'm not trying to down the team. I'm just saying that hopefully these things actually pan out for them and it actually makes sense. Now let's get into our next topic. PK, P shit asshole. That's what he is. Now listen, I want to say this. Because on the last video I made, there were so many people talking about they were from Brazil, while I had other people from that same area from Brazil saying that it was disrespectful. What Nelson was saying, there were a lot of you getting in there talking about, oh, it was not disrespectful. He didn't say anything wrong. I just got to say, as a multi-billion-dollar industry not going to do their research before they decide to ban somebody from the paddock, I think they would. I think they would. And then what happens? What happens, ladies and gentlemen? Another video surfaces. That's what happens. Another video surfaces that doubles up pretty much on what Nelson said. It almost makes it worse. It makes it worse what he actually said. Now, several Brazilians have verified this. Formula One evidently has done their due diligence before banning a three-time champion from the paddock that he said something disrespectful. Even himself said that he meant to basically disrespect Lewis Hamilton, but it wasn't racial. Then we had Max Verstappen, who came up and vouched for his father-in-law that while the words were not correct, you know, I don't think he's racist. Well, I don't know, Max. Let's see this.
Eu tô querendo rir, mas...
não tem. É que nem o filho dele, ganhou um campeonato. O Neguinho devia estar dando mais culo naquela época. Aí, tá
that says
ruim,
exactly what you think it says. It does, right there. It says it. It said it, right? A little bit worse than what you thought it was. Listen, that's totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. And anybody that's trying to justify this, I have to ask myself. Actually, I don't have to ask myself. You need to ask yourself, what kind of person are you? I don't want to hear any of this crap talking about don't be so sensitive. It's only words. Well, when you have people, especially black people that have ancestors or other people, even in today's time with public lynchings that are happening by police, George Floyd, and all types of other situations, you want to say it's not a lynching? Oh, I beg to differ. All right, I beg to differ. You go back and look how that man was killed, and you look at that cop's face, I beg to differ. So regardless, I think this N-word was giving more his ass at that time. I'm just saying. You know, he's got his pretty little white dog up there, and, you know, he's looking like a good, sweet old man. But the shit that PK has said in the past, especially about Senna, other drivers, and now about Lewis Hamilton, that is unacceptable. I'm not accepting it, and I'm not backing down on that stance. So some of you can get in the comment section and try to tell me all you want that ain't what he really said, the translation ain't right. There's a channel that pulled this footage to get it translated, and they ain't from America. I'm just saying. So, you know, pipe down, pipe up, whatever you want to do, but it's not flowing this way. All right. Next topic we are going to get into in this mixer is Mr. Yuri Vips. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, I thought about this, like randomly, I thought about this, like, and just bear with me as I go into this. What Yuri did, what Yuri said, which is what he did, was wrong. It was wrong. I'm not backing off that. But as I started thinking about my own personal experiences, things that I've seen, things that I've been through, things that I've heard, even today as I'm looking at this Morocco situation of authorities beating people while they're on the brink of death and then beating them to death. Things like that, when you say things like he said, anybody can say will move people in the wrong way. But what I will say is Yuri definitely deserves a second chance. And here's why I say that. And don't throw any stones at me yet. You know, I just keep it real. I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm just sharing my thought process, my perspective on this, and the way after thinking about it, how I feel. I think there's an extreme difference between what he did and said compared to even what Nelson did and said. I think the intents are different. After watching the video several times and thinking about it, I don't think Yuri intentionally set out to disrespect black people. I also now if this is verified and it's different, if you all can verify it and it's different than what I'm about to say, I will rethink my thought process. But I don't think Yuri thought, even if he was playing against somebody black or killing somebody black in that game while he was streaming in order when he said bitch ass N-word. So with thinking about that, Yuri probably needs to be educated, right? I mean, schools these days aren't teaching the best about what happened, what we should not be doing, what a group of people did to another group of people, either beating, hanging, castrating, raping, forcing them to do incest in order to breed them like animals, whether it be putting a group of people in a gas chamber, tricking them, thinking they're going to take a shower and murdering them to the point of genocide. I don't think Yuri was thinking about that, probably because Yuri's not clearly educated on that. So he definitely deserves to be punished. He deserves to be set down, maybe even suspended, so he can think about things that you say and the weight that they hold. I'm not saying he needs to go without punishment, but I'm not saying that this young kid definitely needs to be or have his entire future derailed career by making a mistake he should not have made. I'm not changing that. He should not have said that. But the generation of kids that he probably plays with online are not saying these things with malice intent. They either listen to music or hang with a group of people that have given them the okay, making them think it is such a casual thing to say, which, I mean, rap music does that too. And I'm not blaming rap music for this shit because that's still totally different. So don't think I'm letting that off the hook. But Yuri needs to be educated. I don't know him personally, but I did go back and watch the tape again. I don't think from the tape he meant it with malice intent. I don't think he was playing against an opponent that was black. And if he did, it probably didn't know that, maybe. But yeah, I think he does deserve a second chance. I think there's some things to maybe really think about here versus like the Nelson situation, the PK situation. That's different, you know? So yeah, you know, I know y'all might not like what I'm saying. I can understand that. You know, I hope y'all still stick with me. I hope y'all, love me. I hope you still support the channel. I'm just trying to keep it real when I'm digesting things and looking at them. And it's never too late to give somebody a second chance if you can really look and say, hey, they deserve the second chance. Yuri deserves a second chance, but he does need to be educated. He was wrong. Yuri, I would not say that shit ever again if I was you. Don't do it. And just get yourself into a situation where you can be better knowledgeable about other cultures and what things mean to a culture. Because when you have a culture of people that were beaten, raped, stabbed, killed, hung, and hunted with that word on the tip of evildoers' tongues, like the KKK, like policemen that were actually in the KKK, white supremacists that were just out here trying to kill a group of people because they hate them for various reasons, that definitely aren't justified for them to do that. And we can get into that. That's a whole another history lesson. You need that type of knowledge base so you can understand the weight in which you made your mistake. So, hey, that's the mixer. We are going to be live later today. Join me 10 a.m. I'm going live for the Quality Kickback Watch. Don't miss it. We also will be live tomorrow for the race. Don't miss that. All right. So I'll see y'all later on today. Hope you enjoyed the mixer. Many updates. Qualifications is where we're going to see if some of these updates are really going to pay off. All right. See y'all later. Just build it. Peace. Thanks for tuning in and watching another video here at Wolfpack Performance. Check out some of my other content on Formula One issues, our topics, and our DIY products on how to customize your vehicle. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.